Hello and thanks for clicking play. It's Halloween and this time it's a vlog all about making this into, well, you'll see, an ancient Greek design pumpkin. If you've followed my blog or been on there, you have noticed I've recently reblogged a couple of older articles to do with Halloween. One of them is called Night of the Living Dead. Yeah, it sounded good in my head, and that's all about a sort of potential zombie infestation as reported by one Greek historian. I'll let you read and you can decide. And the other one was perhaps a bit more factual. It was a ghost story recounted by Pliny, even involving rattling chains, so cliches abounded even in antiquity. But this vlog is all about pumpkins, and I have done some pumpkins and put them on my blog too. And we'll have a look at some of those and see what you think. Pumpkin number one I tried, and it was all about the Coliseum. Pumpkins are fantastic to try a bit of Greek art on, purely because they're a curved surface, much like the Greek vases, so you have to try to render a flat 2D image across a 3D surface, and a curved one at that, and that does present you with a few challenges. You won't see that much ability in mine, but it did make me appreciate how difficult that was. So the first one we'll look at very quickly is my Coliseum one, which is just a basic outline. Yeah, it's pretty basic, but quite effective, and it looked okay. And it gave me an idea in trying to do different things. So I went up a level, or tried to anyway, and in view of Harryhausen, you can see that there, Ray Harryhausen, and Clash of the Titans, and the terrifying thing that was Medusa, I gave it a go at doing an archaic Gorgon. I also did a scene that some of you may recognise. You probably will do actually. It's quite a famous one. It's of Achilles and Ajax playing a board game, and it dates to about the 6th century BC. It's by the Ezekias painter. I'll show you the image I was trying to do first. Yeah, quite difficult. Really all I could do is try and do outlines and hope that I didn't sneeze or wobble my hand too much to keep those lines straight. This is how it came out. I think that wasn't too bad. It did look like what it was trying to look like, hopefully. Although if you hadn't seen the vase, perhaps you wouldn't really understand what was going on. Well, this time round, I'm going to try something very different. I'm going to try a mixture of both of those designs in doing a Sphinx. Rather than do the normal thing of holding up a book and zooming in on it, which is my previous technical ability with the camera and Windows Movie Maker, I've decided to make a step up a bit. So this time what we're going to be doing is looking at the image briefly, and I'll be discussing some of the things in the image of particular interest, or things I've noted anyway, and then we'll come back and at some point see the finished design. But this will be the pumpkin I'm going to use. So I'm going to do two things. I'm going to put an image of the Sphinx on one side, and that's going to be the scraped out or shaved image, and then I'm going to actually try and do on this side, which is a bit flatter. If you're trying to do anything with I suppose cut out silhouettes, it's worth doing them on a flatter surface if you can find that side of the pumpkin, simply because more curvature is harder to do a silhouette on. So I'll be doing the actual image itself as a silhouette on one side, and that'll be cut out, and then just a big Sphinx on the other side, shaved. But we'll look at the image first, and then we'll come back and you can see the finished results. But here's the pumpkin before, and I'm hoping that the after will be halfway decent. Anyway, let's look at the image. It dates from 470 BC or around that, and it shows well, you'll see. Let's have a look. Here's the image I mentioned. It's attributed to the Oedipus painter and dates to around 470 BC. To put that in context, the famous battles of Thermopylae and Salamis had occurred 10 years earlier, although this was found in Vulci, an Etruscan city not far from Rome. It's always worth remembering that Greek vases were found in a variety of places other than mainland Greece. The image is quite simple. Oedipus sits wearing nothing but a wide-brimmed hat, a cloak, and sandals. This is the outfit of a traveller. He even has his stick resting against him. Set opposite, in stark contrast, is the Sphinx. Where Oedipus sits on a rock, the Sphinx sits on an Ionic column, which may seem odd, but we'll get to that in a bit. The Sphinx, as in the Greek fashion, has wings, a leontine body, which means lion-like, and is female. She even wears a, forgive the pronunciation, Stephane, essentially an upmarket headband. And the Sphinxes were often depicted with various types of headgear. This probably stems from Near Eastern and Egyptian versions and influence, but that's going off on a bit of a tangent. Now, that column. The earlier archaic Athenian stelae, that's gravestones to you and me,
often had sphinxes atop them. It was quite common. This fashion had largely died out, though, by the time this cup was painted, so straight away we have a possible reading or reference to something else going on. I did find somewhere that this vase had an inscription on it, which indicated that the riddle had just been given to Oedipus, and this itself is quite incredible if true, as it gives a snapshot of a specific point in the myth that we wouldn't otherwise have had. Now, consider the reference to the stellae. Was this a more sober point being made, that, perhaps through the riddle, Oedipus was gazing somehow at his own mortality? It's possible, but either way, what we can see is the Sphinx looking anything other than dangerous. In fact, if you didn't know the myth, you might think that the chap and the weird-looking creature were having quite a civilized chat.
Hopefully you found that, if not anything else, just a bit informative. It's nice to have a bit of a background before you go and see a vase or understand it, or at least appreciate it a bit more. Anyway, I've spent the last couple of hours having a go at the pumpkin. I changed my mind. I was going to do 2 images. I was going to do one big Sphinx and then the image itself as a silhouette. Big Sphinx, really I ran out of time, to be totally honest with you. Plus, I thought on the same pumpkin it's going to be tricky because it might... anyway, doesn't matter. So I've done the silhouette. I've not even looked at it with a light in it or anything else, so this will be drum rolls, and what we're going to do is turn it around, have a look at it before, and then I'll stick the light in and we can have a look at it when it looks as it would appear. So, drum roll please. Okay, here we go. So, as I turn it round, yeah, you can't really tell much from that, can you? One of the things you'll notice when you do pumpkins, and as I've found out, is that it is very, very different how it looks without a light. And that sounds obvious, but sometimes you can sort of beat yourself up. And you can look at a pumpkin after you've carved it without the light in it and think it looks, well, that doesn't look too good. You know, actual fact, it might redeem itself a bit. It looks a bit better once it's got a light in it. The difficulties here, as you can imagine, were keeping everything, wobbly, keeping everything and stop cutting through. One of the tips that I've learned the hard way is that if you're going to cut a big area like this, cut the small bits first. Because if you cut a massive area like this out and you've got this wobbling and you try and go in the middle there, it's inviting too much problems. You can end up snapping or cutting through. So take the small bits out. On the larger bits, you can sort of take them out in little segments and sections. When you go for a bigger pumpkins means you have a bigger surface area to do things on. Downside, the walls are thicker. So you've really got to go inside if you can and dig away as much as the wall as possible, simply because if you've got a really thick wall, you can carve something that's flat at the front and it's got a crisp edge. But if you go and it's thick behind it, it can flare out. And of course the silhouette will be the narrowest point. So if you've got a large piece and you've got the large flesh and it's kind of flaring out behind here, then in fact you lose any of that silhouette, you lose the crispness, and you just see a big kind of block. You can see how thick the walls are here. They're sort of, I suppose, so thick. That's quite a lot. So what you do is you can take the initial impression out, and then you can get in behind and start carving down, going in the sides, just taking behind out. So these bits here are the widest pieces because they will form your silhouette. Right, we have here, I suppose all that we can do next is turn the lights off and have a look and see. Here it is then without the lights around it, or with some of the lights around it. You could see I've managed to keep the tail. The tail I thought was really important because it does really offset the Sphinx, particularly the way the Sphinx is perched. Managed to get the hand in. He looks as if he's got his hand underneath the beard. So it looks pretty good. I'm quite happy with that. Okay, didn't quite get the column straight and set, but hey, there we go. Got the Ionian bits in there, which is quite nice too. When we have the lights coming off, wow, there we go. You can see that's a good outline. I think from that, if I was to show you the vase, you would be able to pick that out, which is really all I want. Other people might look at it and think, what's going on with this? But they will probably understand what's going on here, or at least I hope so. Anyway, there we are. So that took me about hour and a half, thereabouts. It's worth prepping the pumpkin before, getting everything out, and then going back to it. If you can get the image first and stick the image on the pumpkin and kind of prick out a rough area, keep the image at hand so you know where you're going to go rough, because sometimes you can't see the holes that you've made. And there we have it. So that will be sitting out before it rots in probably about 2 or 3 days. Hope you enjoyed it. Have a go. If you do have a go and you do something at whatever level, send it to me, because I'd really like to do something on a blog where I put other people's versions and what they've done in terms of the pumpkins. It'd be really, really cool to have something like that. So if you've got anything, just contact me, send me pictures, I'll credit you. It would just be a nice thing to have. Anyway, have a great Halloween, and I'll see you again soon, and thanks for watching.